Hello students, I'm Akanksha and in today's video we will discuss important one-liner questions from microeconomics. These questions are essential for your exams, so stay active and pay close attention.
We are ready, ma'am. Let's start.
Great! Let's start with first question. What does microeconomics study?
Microeconomics studies individual units like households and firms.
Correct. Microeconomics studies individual units like households and firms. Now, Bushra, tell me, why is that important?
It helps us understand how individual decisions impact resource allocation and prices in markets.
Excellent. Let's move on. Question 2. What is scarcity in economics?
Ma'am, scarcity is the limited availability of resources relative to unlimited wants.
Correct, Ansh. Scarcity is the limited availability of resources relative to unlimited wants. Now tell me, why is this concept crucial in economics?
Because scarcity forces us to make choices about how to best use our limited resources.
Well done! Scarcity is important because it shows why we need to make choices about using resources wisely. Next question. Question 3. What is opportunity cost?
Ma'am, opportunity cost is the value of the next best alternative foregone.
Very well, Nishant. Opportunity cost is the value of the next best alternative foregone. Now, can you explain why understanding opportunity cost is important?
Opportunity cost helps in making informed decisions by comparing what we sacrifice versus what we gain.
Good answer. Here's a simple example of opportunity cost. Imagine you have enough money to buy either a book or a game. If you choose the book, the game is your opportunity cost because it's the alternative you gave up. Let's continue. Okay, student, move to question 4. What does a production possibility curve, PPC, show?
Ma'am, APPC shows the trade-offs between the production of two goods.
Good. A PPC shows the trade-offs between the production of two goods. What does that mean?
It shows how increasing the production of one good reduces the production of another because resources are limited.
Exactly, Ansh. Let's see an example for better understanding. Imagine a farmer has land that can grow either wheat or rice. If the farmer uses more land for wheat, there's less available for rice. This trade-off is what a PPC represents. Okay, class. Moving to next question. What is the shape of the PPC when resources are not perfectly adaptable?
Ma'am, the PPC is concave to the origin.
Yes, the PPC is concave to the origin. When resources are not perfectly adaptable to the production of both goods,
It means resources are better suited to making one good over another. So, as you shift production, it becomes less efficient.
good, okay, class. See this example for better understanding. Imagine a factory that produces both cars and bikes. If workers and machines are better at making cars, shifting more resources to make bikes will be less efficient, leading to the concave shape of the PPC. Okay, student, moving to next question. What does ceteris paribus mean?
Ceteris paribus means all other things being equal.
Good, Bushra. Ceteris paribus means all other things being equal. Now tell me, why do economists use this assumption?
It focusing on how one factor affects an outcome while keeping everything else unchanged. For example, if we want to see how price affects demand for a product, we assume factors like income and preferences stay the same.
Great point. Moving on. Question 7. What are the 3 central problems of economics?
Ma'am, the three central problems of economic are what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce.
Yes, right, Ansh. The three central problems of economic are what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. Now, can you tell me what that's mean? And why are these questions significant?
What to produce means deciding which goods and services should be made. How to produce is about choosing the best way to make them. For whom to produce decides who gets to use these goods.
Great explanation. Here's an example. Imagine a car company deciding whether to produce more electric cars or traditional gas cars. They need to choose which type of car is in higher demand, find the best production method to build them efficiently, and decide who their target customers are for each type of vehicle. They need to decide what goods are more necessary, choose the best production methods, and determine who should benefit from these goods. These decisions help manage limited resources wisely. Okay, next question. What does the law of demand state?
Ma'am, the law of demand states that quantity demanded decreases as price increases.
Correct. The law of demand states that quantity demanded decreases as price increases. Now, can you tell me why does this happen?
As prices go up, people tend to buy less because they look for cheaper alternatives or cut back on unnecessary purchases.
Great observation. Moving on to next question. What does the law of supply state?
Ma'am, the law of supply states that quantity supplied increases as price increases.
Good. The law of supply states that quantity supplied increases as price increases. But why do you think suppliers would increase the quantity supplied when prices go up?
Because higher prices mean suppliers can make more profit, so they have an incentive to produce and sell more.
Exactly. Higher prices motivate producers to expand production. Now, a broader question. What is the main focus of microeconomics?
The main focus is on decision making by individuals and firms.
Right. The main focus is on decision making by individuals and firms. But can anyone give me a practical example of this?
Sure, like a bakery deciding how many cakes to bake based on customer demand and ingredient cost.
Perfect example. Microeconomics studies these small scale decisions that impact resource allocation and pricing. Let's keep going. Here's another one. What is the relationship between price and quantity demanded?
The relationship is inverse.
Yes, the relationship between price and quantity demanded is inverse. Can you explain why this inverse relationship exists?
Sure, when prices rise, people buy less because it becomes expensive. When prices fall, people buy more because it becomes affordable. This is why there is an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded.
Good reasoning. Now, moving forward, what is utility in economics?
Utility is the satisfaction or benefit derived from consuming a good.
That's correct. Utility is the satisfaction or benefit derived from consuming a good. But why do you think utility is important in economics?
Utility helps us understand why people make certain choices. Everyone wants to get the most satisfaction from the money, so they buy things that give them the greatest benefit.
Exactly. In economics, utility helps explain consumer behavior, why people prefer certain goods over others. Can you think of an example where utility would influence your decision?
Like going to a vegetable shop. If I need vegetables for dinner, I'll choose carrots and spinach because they give me more satisfaction than buying extra potatoes I don't need.
Utility in economics means the satisfaction or happiness a person gets from using a product or service. Okay, moving on to next question. What is marginal utility?
Ma'am, marginal utility is the additional satisfaction from consuming one more unit.
That's correct. Marginal utility is the additional satisfaction from consuming one more unit of a good. Why does this concept matter?
It helps us understand how much benefit we get from buying or using more of something. For instance, if buying one extra pack of rice allows a household to store food for emergencies, the satisfaction or utility gained from that additional pack is the marginal utility.
Good point. Next question. What is consumer surplus?
Consumer surplus is the difference between what someone is willing to pay and what they actually pay.
Good, Ansh. Consumer surplus is the difference between what someone is willing to pay and what they actually pay. Can you explain consumer surplus with example?
Consumer surplus is the extra benefit or value a consumer gets when they pay less for a product than what they were willing to pay. It shows how much extra happiness a buyer gains from making a purchase at a lower price. Nishant went to buy vegetables willing to pay $10. The shopkeeper offered them for $8. Nishant's consumer surplus is $2. The extra benefit from paying less than he expected.
Good. Now moving on to next question. What does elasticity of demand measure?
Elasticity of demand measures how quantity demanded responds to price changes.
Correct, Bushra. Elasticity of demand measures how quantity demanded responds to price changes. Tell me now, why is that useful?
It helps businesses decide pricing strategies. If demand is elastic, people quickly stop buying when prices rise. So businesses need to be careful with price increases.
Great explanation. Moving forward, what is a perfectly competitive market?
It's a market with many buyers and sellers offering identical products.
Good. Perfectly competitive market is a market with many buyers and sellers offering identical products. Now tell me, why does that matter?
Because no single buyer or seller can control the price, and competition keeps prices fair for everyone.
Right? Well, let's move on. Question 17. What does the term rationality mean in microeconomics?
Ma'am, rationality means making decisions to maximize satisfaction or profit.
Good. Rationality means making decisions to maximize satisfaction or profit. Now tell me, why is rational decision making important?
It helps people and businesses make the best choices to get the most value from their resources.
Exactly. For example, a shopper choosing between products considers price and quality to get the best deal. Okay, let's move on. What are the four factors of production?
The four factors of production are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship.
Correct. The four factors of production are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. Now tell me, why are these factors important?
They are the resources needed to produce goods and services. For example, to make bread, you need land for wheat, labor to harvest it, capital for machines, and an entrepreneur to run the bakery.
Okay, moving to next question. What does the term market refer to?
A market is a system where buyers and sellers interact to trade goods and services.
Great! A market is a system where buyers and sellers interact to trade goods and services. Can you give an example?
Sure, a local vegetable market where people buy fresh produce is a good example.
Exactly. Now here's another question. What is the invisible hand?
The invisible hand is Adam Smith's concept of self-regulating markets.
Right? The invisible hand is Adam Smith's concept of self-regulating markets. But why do we call it invisible?
Because it describes how individual choices and competition help balance the market without any direct control. Like when demand for a product drops, sellers naturally lower prices to attract buyers.
Well said. Let's move on. What is a monopoly?
A monopoly is when there's only one seller in a market.
Correct. A monopoly is when there's only one seller in a market. Can you think of an example?
Yes, a government run railway service where no other companies operate could be an example of monopoly.
Perfect. Another question. What is an inferior good?
It's a good whose demand decreases as people's income increases.
Correct. An inferior good is one whose demand decreases as income increases. Can you give an example?
Yes, public transportation is an example. When people earn more, they often prefer buying their own cars instead of using buses or trains.
Good. Let's move to next question. What is a normal good?
A normal good is a product whose demand increases when people's income goes up.
Correct. A normal good is a product whose demand increases when people's income goes up. Can you give an example?
Sure, branded clothing. When people have more money, they often prefer buying higher quality brands instead of less expensive or second-hand options.
Exactly. Now, who can explain what positive economics deals with?
Positive economics deals with factual and objective analysis.
Good. Positive economics deals with factual and objective analysis. But what does that really mean?
It means describing how the economy works without making value judgments.
Okay. Now, can you give an example?
Sure, saying a decrease in fuel prices leads to increased car usage is a positive economic statement because it's based on observation and facts.
Great example. Facts over opinions. That's the key idea here. Okay, class, moving on. What does normative economics deal with?
Normative economics deals with value judgments and policy recommendations.
Yes, it deals with opinions and value judgments, like what policies should be implemented. Can you tell any example?
The statement governments should provide free education for all is normative because it expresses an opinion on what ought to happen, not a factual claim.
Good. Now, what is a market economy?
An economy where prices and production are determined by supply and demand.
Excellent. An economy where prices and production are determined by supply and demand. But can you explain that a bit more?
In a market economy, businesses make production decisions based on consumer demand, and prices are set by competition between companies rather than government control.
Great. Moving to next question. What is a mixed economy?
A mixed economy combines elements of both market and government control.
Correct. A mixed economy combines elements of both market and government control. Can you explain that a bit more?
Sure, in a mixed economy, private businesses can run freely in many areas, like shops and factories, deciding what to sell or produce. But the government manages important services like healthcare or transportation to help everyone in society.
Okay, let's move to next question. What is a command economy?
An economy where the government controls production and pricing.
Correct. That's when the government controls production and pricing. Can you give an example?
A good example is North Korea, where the government decides what goods are produced, how they are priced, and how resources are allocated.
Okay, let's move to next. What is marginal cost?
Marginal cost is the cost of producing one additional unit of output.
Yes, correct. It's the cost of producing one more unit of a product. Any example?
For example, if a factory spends 100 rupees to produce 10 units of a product and 105 rupees to produce 11 units, the marginal cost of the 11th unit is 5 rupiah.
Okay, good. Can someone explain what is economic efficiency?
Economic efficiency is when resources are allocated to maximize output.
Correct. It's when resources are used to maximize output. Any example for better understanding, Nishant?
For instance, if a farmer uses every piece of fertile land to grow crops without waste, that's economic efficiency.
Okay, good. Next question. What does the slope of the PPC represent?
The slope of the PPC represents opportunity cost.
Correct. The slope of the PPC represents opportunity cost. Can you explain with an example?
Opportunity cost is the value of the next best alternative given up when making a choice. For example, if an economy produces more cars, it must produce fewer computers due to limited resources. The opportunity cost is the number of computers foregone.
Okay, next question. What happens when resources are fully employed?
The economy operates on the PPC curve.
Good answer. The economy operates on the PPC curve. This means all resources like labor and capital are used efficiently without any waste. Okay, moving to next question. What is the effect of improved technology on the PPC?
Improved technology shifts the PPC outward.
Good. Improved technology shifts the PPC outward. But why does the PPC shift outward?
It happens because of factors like improved technology, better education, or increased resources, which help the economy produce more goods and services.
Okay, good. Moving to next. What is a complementary good?
It's a good consumed together with another good like coffee and sugar.
Yes, correct. Complementary goods are good consumed together with another good. Can anyone tell another example?
Another example is printers and ink cartridges. They are often bought and used together.
Okay, class, moving on. What is a substitute good?
Ma'am, a good that can replace another good in consumption.
Good. Substitute good is a good that can replace another good in consumption. Can you give an example?
Sure, tea and coffee are substitute goods. If the price of coffee goes up, people may switch to tea instead.
Good example. Now, what is equilibrium in a market?
Equilibrium is where demand equals supply.
Yes, equilibrium is where demand equals supply. Can you give an example?
Sure, if a bakery makes 100 loaves of bread per day and exactly 100 customers buy them at a set price, the market is in equilibrium because the quantity supplied matches the quantity demanded.
Good, Ansh. Now, moving on, what happens to price in a surplus?
Mom, price decreases in a surplus.
Correct, price decreases in a surplus. The price decreases because there are more goods than people want to buy. Can you give an example for better understanding?
Sure, if farmers produce more wheat than the market demands, there will be a surplus. To sell the excess stock, farmers may lower the price of wheat.
Okay, class. Moving on to next question. What happens to price in a shortage?
Price increases because demand exceeds supply.
Exactly. Prices go up when many people want a product but there isn't enough of it available. Can you give an example?
If there's a sudden rise in demand for onions due to a poor harvest, but fewer onions are available, the price will go up because many people still want to buy them.
Moving on to next question. What is the law of diminishing marginal returns?
Adding more of a variable input decreases additional output after a point.
Yes, Adding more of a variable input decreases additional output after a point. Can you explain with example?
It means that when you keep adding more of something, like workers or fertilizer on a farm, the extra output you get starts to get smaller after a point. Example for law of diminishing marginal returns. Imagine a farmer using fertilizer on a small field. At first, adding more fertilizer helps grow more crops. But after a point, adding even more fertilizer doesn't help much and can even make things worse.
Good. Moving to next, what is the income effect?
Ma'am, the change in demand due to a change in consumers' purchasing power.
Yes, it's when people buy more or less of something because their money feels like it's worth more or less. Can you give an example?
Sure, if the price of groceries goes down, people can buy more with the same amount of money. So they feel richer and may spend more. That's the income effect.
Okay, moving next. What is the substitution effect?
The change in demand when consumers substitute one good for another due to price changes.
Yes, it's when people buy a cheaper product instead of a more expensive one when prices change. Can you give an example?
Sure, if the price of coffee goes up, some people might switch to buying tea because it's cheaper.
Okay, move on to next. What is price ceiling?
A maximum price set by the government below the equilibrium price.
Yes, it's a limit set by the government to keep prices from going too high. Can you give an example?
Sure, rent control is a price ceiling. The government sets a maximum rent so landlords can't charge too much, making housing more affordable.
Okay, moving on. What is a price floor?
Price floor, a minimum price set by the government above the equilibrium price.
Yes, price floor. It's when the government sets a minimum price that can go lower. Can you give an example?
Yes, minimum wage is a price floor. The government sets the lowest amount workers can be paid to ensure fair wages.
Okay, moving on to next. What is producer surplus?
Producer surplus is the difference between the price producers receive and their minimum acceptable price.
Yes, it's the extra money a producer gets when they sell a product for more than their lowest acceptable price. Can you give me an example?
Sure, a farmer is okay selling apples for $2, but the market price is $3. That extra dollar is the producer surplus.
Okay, next one. What is the marginal rate of substitution?
The rate at which a consumer is willing to substitute one good for another.
Yes, it's the rate at which a consumer is willing to give up some of one good to get more of another, while keeping the same satisfaction level. Give an example.
For example, if you give up 2 apples to get 1 extra banana and stay just as happy, that's your marginal rate of substitution.
Okay, class, moving next. What is a public good?
Public good is a good that is non-rivalrous and non-excludable.
Good. A public good is something that everyone can use, and one person using it doesn't stop others from using it too. Any example?
Street lights are a good example, a public good. Everyone can use them, and one person using the light doesn't stop others from using it too.
Good, moving on. What is a private good?
A good that is rivalrous and excludable.
Yes, a private good is something that not everyone can use at the same time, and people can be stopped from using it if they don't pay.
For example of a private good could be a concert ticket. If you buy it, only you can attend the concert, and the seller can stop others from entering without a ticket.
Okay, good. Can you tell me what a free market is?
A market with minimal government intervention is a free market.
That's right. A free market is one where buyers and sellers make decisions with little or no government interference. Can you give an example?
Another example is online marketplaces like eBay. Sellers set their prices for goods and buyers can choose to buy or not based on what they think is fair. There's minimal government control over the prices or how the transactions happen.
Good, Ansh. Moving on to next question. What is economic growth?
Economic growth is the increase in an economy's production capacity over time.
Good. Economic growth is when a country makes more things and offers more services over time. It can do this by having more resources or using them in better ways. Can you give an example?
For example, if a country builds more factories or improves technology, it can produce more, leading to economic growth.
Good, Nishant. Okay, now class, here's last question for today's video. What is the role of incentives in economics?
Incentives motivate individuals and firms to make economic decisions.
Correct. In simple words, incentives are things that encourage people or businesses to make certain choices. They can be rewards that help them reach their goals. Can you give an example?
Discounts are a good example of an incentive. They encourage customers to buy more.
Okay class, that's all for today's video. I hope it was helpful for you. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. Keep learning and I'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more updates. For more information or to purchase the full course, feel free to reach out to us.